It's time for Tiger Talk Tuesday, coming live from MIGS. Tiger Talk Tuesday is sponsored by Ag-Side, Edgar Electrical, Hammond Farm, Berry Insurance Agency, CM3 Service, Couch Hardware and Farm Supply, Economy Furniture, Edwards Heating and Cooling, Gentry and Son Fencing, H&R Block, Check RA Exterminate, Lake Murray Property, North Carolina Electrical Office, Big Hustler, Motor Coat Paint and Body Car Sale, Newberry Hospital, Norman, Pascal Robot Service, Perez Style, City Hill Country Club, Heavy Duty Club, Skip Me and Zane, Heavy Fuel Home, Reclaim Physical Therapy, University Rehab Center, Saluda Young Farmers, Senator Billy Garrett, The Best Dressed Chicken, The Charlie Foundation, The Law Office in Nancy, Georgia, the Rich Baptist Association, the South Carolina Department of Education, the South Carolina Education Lottery, the Town of Saluda, the Willows Agency Nationwide Insurance, the Titans SC.com, and Texas Lawn Service and Landscape. We're selecting to the best of chocolate on Tiger Talk Tuesday. You're watching SALUDA. And hello everyone, we're glad to be back here with you with another Talking Tuesday, coming live from MIGS here on your SALUDA Now. Listen, come on into MIGS tonight. The buy one, get one free special is going on. Just mention you heard it on SALUDA Now. That's right. Buy one pizza, get the second one half off tonight. What a way to feed your family affordably, as we know everything's going up and you want to save all the money you can. And speaking of saving money, how about getting all the money back you need from World Finance, loansbyworld.com. They're located right there at 115 West Utah Street here in Saluda. Call them if you got questions about your taxes, 864-445-3770. Yes, they not only do loans, they can fill out your taxes. The girls are waiting to take your return and get you the biggest rebate you can get. So go by, don't lose the money that you deserve. It's money you paid in to the government. Get it back on this year's taxes at loansbyworld.com. We are glad that you're joining us here at MIGS. Glad to have everybody here on the program today. And listen, go play our Super Bowl contest. The big game giveaway is going on right now. Guess the right score. Win $100 gift card as courtesy of Crouch Hardware and Farm Supply, who is celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Listen, if you guess the right score and there's a tie, you will be put in a drawing on the next Talking Tuesday. What's the score going to be against Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers? Take advantage of that. Go and comment on Saluda now, and you may win this gift from Crouch Hardware and Farm Supply. We hope that you are the winner. Lucky you. And also go back and watch the interview we had Kevin Crouch. We're doing it in segments today because we have two very special guests. Want to make sure both of them get all the airtime they can. Listen, they're having a celebration this weekend. Come on out. They're going to have free hot dog lunch on Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. It's going on. In fact, right now, you can be a part of the $250 giveaway. It's a shopping spree. Just bring your canned food item. Every canned food equals one entry. So bring it by Crouch Hardware and Farm Supply. They're at 508 North Main. They're also giving a lot of other gifts away that you must be present with, but this one you don't. So be sure to be a part of that celebration going on at Crouch Hardware and Farm Supply. Well, today we have a very special guest with us. We have Mike Beatonbow. He is the candidate for the 3rd Congressional District here in South Carolina and Saluda County. Mike, thank you for coming on the show today.
It is a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And I know we've read a lot about you. You have been in the news. I've seen the write-up here. I think this was in Lexington.
That was Abbeville.
Abbeville, okay.
Yeah,
and that's where you announced your congressional running. But first, tell us a little about who is Michael Beatonbow.
Well, to get here, I crossed the river, as all us beaten balls are. We're either north of the river and beaten ball, or south of the river and beaten bow.
Yeah, you got that down.
Yep, absolutely.
Because you know in Saluda we call them beaten bow, y'all call them beaten ball on that side.
That's it. And so we were, my family, I live on my great-grandfather's farm.
Okay.
I live within a mile and a half of my Revolutionary War ancestors where his cabin was. So I've always seen this place as my home. And growing up, as many people, many of your listeners are, in a rural community, young men have dreams and try to figure out. And when I was 18, I thought, prosperity is a great place to be from, but not a great place to be. So,
there you go.
So I just took off and I joined the Navy and was there for 5 years. Then after that, I came back and lived at home and went into international studies. I learned Russian. I went to Russia. I was fascinated with international studies. Then I married a woman that lived in New York. I moved to New York. Then after that, I moved back home again. So I've had the luck to be able to rediscover the place of my birth twice. Because every time I moved away, I didn't think I'd ever come back again.
Yeah.
And the last time I came back, I realized this was the place I need to stay. And so I restored my great-grandfather's home, and then I moved to my grandfather's home, and that's where I live now, just north of Blacksbridge. And I was on town council in Prosperity for a while. And I've always been interested and engaged in, because of my studies in foreign policy and international studies. Also, I took political science. So I've always been seeing that as a responsibility of citizenship. And the last career I had was Preservation South Carolina, where I traveled the state trying to help save historic places or communities and do community development. So I retired from that 2 years ago, with the anticipation that I would be doing this.
Okay, that's wonderful. And here you are, you announced there in Abbeville that you are running for the 3rd Congressional District. And how was your reception there in Abbeville, Michael?
Oh, it was great. Abbeville is I have a lot of great relationships there because for the past 4 years before I retired, I was in charge of restoring Trinity Church, which if anybody's been to Abbeville,
Oh, yeah.
the big, tall Episcopal church built in
Yes.
1860, Trinity. Well, the steeple was leaning and rotting, and I led the efforts and raised the money to and oversaw and managed the rehab to rebuild the foundation of the steeple and straighten it.
Wow.
And it was part of a program we were doing called Sacred Spaces, where we were trying to get money to come in because so many older churches were being abandoned and empty.
Yes.
And so it was part of our Sacred Spaces program to help ensure these places of spiritual intention were not lost. Because
That's
they were the
wonderful.
center of the community. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
when you look at old maps, they say meeting house.
Yeah.
Well, that was the one place everybody met. That's where they would used to meet in the 1820s and 30s for voting, for gathering. I mean, that was the largest building in the community then,
Right.
when everybody was living in little log cabins.
Yes.
And to see the church congregations come out of that and use these places, and to see them dwindle down to be empty again is a sad state for the community.
Right.
And so we developed a program to try to bring intention back to them and give them a chance, because it's my personal belief that these empty church buildings will not be empty for long or forever.
Yes, that's
the
right.
short-term trends that are allowing what's happening as people are searching and figuring out their spiritual intention and what's
Right.
happening, and organized religion versus personal connectivity, all of those things are happening now. But it was my belief that if the old place was still there and saved, it would come back quicker because of the traditions of the past, and people are attracted to that. And it worked. We saved several churches that way.
right.
So that was part of the program we did there. So I know a lot of folks there, and that's why I decided to announce there.
Place, purpose, and preservation
Yes.
is your theme. I like this also, and I'm going to show it to you. You're viewing it at home. Now, this is over the Senate.
That was in one of the halls of the Senate, and I put that on my
Okay.
Facebook page. The greatest dangers to liberty lurk in insidious encroachment by men of zeal, well-meaning but without understanding.
That's good. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate. And every once in a while, I pop it up on my Facebook page,
That's
just for
awesome.
us to think about. Just because someone is passionate and well-meaning in their drive, we have to have ways in society on how governance is done, which is one, the beauty of our Constitution,
Yes.
all those checks and balances,
That's
and,
right.
and to allow conversation to happen, which is the centerpiece of my campaign. Is to one, I am going to be running as an independent.
Okay.
And that independence allows me to be free of purse strings and control strings of the corporatocracy that has taken over both parties, I believe.
So you can go with us to the ball games this fall.
Oh, absolutely.
We know you're not going, but you're going to be past the primary.
Yes.
While
That's
the
it.
other parties are fighting it out
Let
to
'em
get a
fight.
measly 4% to the polls. It
It
is.
just astonishes me. I'm
Yes.
sitting there
That's right.
talking how Biden won South Carolina.
Yeah.
Look at all this.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, look, and I looked up the numbers.
Yeah.
126,000 people voted
Yeah,
for him.
that's
I mean,
4%.
really? 4%
Yeah.
of the population voted. But the thing is, similar
Yeah.
things are happening on the Republican side
That's
too.
right, that's right.
It's just so the way these things are being picked is a problem. And what's happened is that it's so normalized that people don't see that it shouldn't be this way. So that's part of my, the foundation of my campaign is something called my 95 Thesis for a Free Republic.
Yeah, we got that, and I'm sure you can go to the website.
Yes, you go to, I have a special website
Okay.
just for this.
Okay.
95 Thesis for a freerepublic.com.
All right.
And it's real easy to go there. You can also go to MikeBeatonball.com and get there, but
And you're on
having to
Facebook
spell-
too.
I'm on Facebook too, but having people have to spell beaten ball could be a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
95 Thesis for a Free Republic.
I think most people in Saluda know how to spell beaten bow
Well, same
and
spelling.
beaten ball
The same spelling.
across Black Bridge.
Yeah, and I never understood how it became bow.
Yeah.
Because and I never understood why Beden, B-E-D-E-N should be Beden, but we pronounce it Beden.
Yeah.
And all of this is rooted in the original German name,
That's
which
right.
was Biedenbach,
Yeah.
which was meant by the brook. So whatever little German peasant in southern Bavaria, he lived by a brook, and he was the first one.
How about that?
Yeah, and so there's three different things actually. The one brother that came, he had the one man that came, he had sons, and one moved to Union, and there they spelled the name B-E-A-D-E-N, B-A-U-G-H. It's spelled like it should be pronounced.
Right.
Biedenbach. We didn't change the spelling in Newberry
Yeah.
Prosperity. And then for whatever reason, the folks say, well, we're tired of it ball, we're going to be Bow. And they moved
There you
across
go.
the river.
How about that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, and you and I were talking about it before the program started, the 3rd Congressional District covers a lot of territory.
Well, it's one of the most rural, besides some
Yes.
of the low country. It's the most rural of the upcountry. And it
Got a
is-
lot of driving to do.
It's a lot of driving, but I tell you, I'm used to doing that. I mean, 'cause
Yeah.
when I ran Preservation South Carolina, I traveled the state, and I know all the
How about
leaders.
that?
I know all the leaders
That's
in the
awesome.
towns, and so I kind of, when I thought it, I had people helping me. Like, well, Mike, nobody knows. I said, yeah, they do. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been in the paper for the past 12 years.
That's right.
Not everybody, but it's part of introducing myself. A lot of the leadership in these towns are familiar with me, and I love driving the state. I mean, I love this
It's
state.
beautiful, isn't
It's
it?
a beautiful state, especially this part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you know, I just for mileage issues, when I had the Preservation South Carolina, I
Right.
drove Priuses because I could get more money out of the mileage, and I put 250,000 miles on
How about that?
on a Prius. Then I did the same on the
Yeah.
second Prius, and now I'm at 150,000 on my third.
So the Congressional District, I know it covers here Saluda, Greenwood.
Okay,
and-
let's go through the list.
Okay.
It's Edgefield,
All right.
Saluda, Newberry, Lawrence, Greenwood, McCormick, Abbeville, Anderson, Pickens, Oconee, and the southern third of Greenville.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now that's changed
Yeah.
because when it was just before 2020 census, Highway 391 was
Yeah.
the edge of the district in the southern third of Newberry County. So I live on the right side of Highway 391. I was within a quarter mile of the district, and I was in District
Fine.
5.
Yes.
Yeah. But so I was up there, and when I decided to run, I thought I was going to be running up there against Ralph Norman.
Yes.
And then I said, okay, well, I'm in this district, so I have to run against Jeff.
Yeah.
At that time, Jeff was in power, he was planning
Right,
on running. And
right.
because I made this decision to think about and start planning for it last fall. And then circumstances happened.
Right.
And I know I picked the right.
Have you
district.
talked to Jeff Duncan?
No,
You have not talked to him.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Have you
I never
spoken-
got to meet him that well.
Yeah.
I never got to, but I have
Yeah.
good friends that have.
Well, good. Well, I'm sure if you are elected as our representative, you have to bring a lot of ideas to the table that are fundamental to help turn the country around.
Yeah.
And have you thought about that, representing rural South Carolina in Washington?
Yes. There's nothing that sickens me more when I hear people talk about flyover country,
Yes.
because this type of place
Mm-hmm.
was originally the foundation of what made the country work,
Yeah.
right? And my campaign, I believe, is focused on the things. Well, let's put it this way. I think a lot of the things that everybody is buzzing and spinning about are distractions from the real things that are really happening.
Right.
Right? I mean, of course, there's an immigration problem, and that is a true big issue. I do think it's been created by both parties so they can get everybody's eyes on that, and the catastrophe that's happening down there has been created. And that has to be, but I'm more focused, especially because I've been working in community development, I'm more focused on the things that really impact people, that so many people are just allowing to happen because they think that's just the way it works. One of those is things like building codes. right?
Right.
Now that's a state issue, but there's also a federal part of that in regards to the International Code Commission that's been
Right,
created
yes.
to create all of these.
Yes.
And one of the things that just frustrates me to no end is when there are systems in place where people know we have to keep buildings safe. When you're in a downtown,
Oh, yeah.
you have buildings on top of each other, you know a fire can start and burn through everything. But many of the codes that are so onerous on people now have just been developed in the past
Yes.
10, 15 years. And it's almost like these folks are sitting in their little buildings and fluorescent lit cubicles and just trying to come up with other things that, well, how can we make sure nobody, that we can have another thing to justify ourselves? One of those, this is one little thing, is the issue of, like, you go into a town, there's 2-story buildings in these small towns, and upstairs is empty, and downstairs has maybe a retail space.
Right.
Well, in the code it's set up, if you're commercial and you want residential upstairs, you have to do all these other code modifications, like sprinklers and all of that
Right.
stuff. Even though there's no fire hazard any more than if it was a 2-story home.
Right.
So those sort of things has kept a lot of vitality from being able to bring back into small towns. And yeah, so that's just one of the little things. But some of the bigger points that we have to do is look at, well, let me say this. My 95 thesis is based on two things. One, Martin Luther's 95 thesis
Okay.
that he created
Yeah.
for a corrupted Catholic Church in the
Right.
16th century. I thought that was appropriate. And so that's why I released them on October 31st, 517 years
How about
after he
that?
posted them on the door, which I visited back
Wow.
several years ago. My
Amazing.
wife's daughter lives in Berlin, and from there we went down to Wittenberg and visited where he did that, which was really cool. But so using that concept of 95 Thesis and kind of that brand of, ground up pushback
Yes.
against corruption, and then I used the basis of Washington's farewell address.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have not been teaching the importance of George Washington to
Right.
other generations. And I see George Washington as absolutely the most important man that lived in the history of this country. And I don't think this country would exist without him. I truly believe him to be the father of our nation. We could go into reasons why that is, but there's very specific reasons for that. And when he voluntarily left power, he could have stayed there till life if he wanted to. He voluntarily left power after 2 terms, and he sent out something called his farewell address. And that farewell address was basically what I call it an owner's manual for the republic. All you have to do is watch for these certain things, and you can keep your republic.
Right.
As Franklin said, a republic if you can keep it, to the lady who asked what type of constitution they made. Well, 9 years later, Washington said, here's the owner's manual for how you need to do that. And he had some very important things to talk about. The 2 things he was most worried about was the spirit of party, of pretended patriotism, of people taking on mantles of patriotism, fervor for their own elevation at the expense of the nation as a whole, and foreign affairs and foreign interventionism. And so if you go in there, you'll see all these lists. And so I took sayings of Washington, made them, incorporated them in my 95 thesis, and then I put in things that were about what I think policies we need to initiate to answer his concerns. So where he's talking about political power, parties getting too much power, some of the tools I want to do for building moderation and guards against too much party power. A candidate, this is number 22, a candidate for political office can only accept funds from individual citizens qualified to vote for them. No more corporate money, no more outside money. Our last governor election was so expensive
Yes.
because special interests from outside the state were pouring money into South Carolina so that one could beat the other. We have to stop that.
Yeah, in Iowa, the Republicans spent $181 million.
Yeah,
One caucus.
one caucus.
Yeah, one caucus.
I mean, so this goes back to the Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, which allowed this. I'm a constitutional conservative, and I fully believe that the court got correct Citizens United because of how the law reads. The law reads about persons. It doesn't distinguish between natural persons and artificial personas. Anybody out there that has a trust that was set up for their family,
Right.
or corporations, those in law are considered persons. That's how you're able to be
Okay.
taxed through there and washed through there. And that's
Okay.
how a trust can hold funds and be isolated from other persons to hold a person's trust. And so one of my thesis is to, and I think one of the things that will fix this, is to amend the 14th Amendment to read only natural persons and not just persons, okay? Because that's where the rub comes. You know, when Romney said, you know, corporations are people, my friend, you know, they're that famous thing
Yeah.
where people were pushing back corporations
Oh,
have
yeah.
too much power. The thing I have a problem with Romney saying that was he was taking advantage of situations that
Right.
corporations could, instead
Yeah.
of saying, we need to fix this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's the corrupted influence of all this money and how it breeds in the minds of people a sense of it's okay to do this. And just my one thing about Jeff Duncan, who has been representing the district, started out with all wonderful intentions of what he was going to do.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he started getting tons of funds. Most of his funds came from big oil, nuclear power companies. He became head of the commission on the grid. And sitting up there, whether his intentions were or not, his biggest influencer on making policy decisions was the huge corporations that were benefiting from the policy decisions. Only 20% of his donors were giving less than $200. So he wasn't doing anything illegal. What I'm saying is that's part of the system.
Right.
And I was told before I knew he was leaving, I said, Mike, you don't understand. He's going to get so much money from these corporations because they want him to stay in charge of this. So that's why I'm running, is to try to discuss the fact that we can do this better. We can put in guardrails to keep those temptations. I personally am declaring I will only serve 2 terms,
Okay.
4 years, that's it. If I can't get done in 4 years what I want to do, then, whatever, I'll come on back to my farm across Black's Bridge. But I think I can do. People are asking me, say, well, what can you do with 2 terms? Well, let me tell you, if I, as an independent, can get voted into a national office
Right.
in this type of atmosphere, I'll make national headline news. And
There you
with
go.
national headline news, I will elevate these 95
Yes.
pieces. I will spread the word of this.
Yeah.
And I am convinced that can help be the initiator of an avalanche
Right.
of people from grassroots just saying, we can stop this. And put up these guardrails to where people can't just take corporate money and do it. Let me say some of the other things. The source of income by political candidates must be fully disclosed. Here's another one. This is what I found out. Our elected officials, the reason I said 4 years, 2 terms,
Right.
is because as soon as a representative is in 5 years, they are then bought in to the federal retirement plan
Okay.
as if they were a full-time employee. Now, they still get Social Security.
Right.
So my whole thing is they must not partake in a retirement plan. We're not sending you up there for you to have a career. We're
Yeah.
sending you up there to represent us.
Right.
and you don't need to be incentivized to stay longer than the term limits that you're supposed to have.
Right.
Some of the others, well, and here's the big one we mentioned before we went on air. The original Constitution had we know our governing system embedded in the Constitution is checks and balances, and we tend to think of that as legislature versus the president and then the Supreme Court. Well, there was another check and balance in there that has been destroyed, and that was between the House and the Senate, because originally they were to have two different constituencies. We are a federal republic, and we are also a democracy. So the House of Representatives is to be the democratic expression of people voting, and the Senate was to be the state's interest as part of members of a federalized republic. We have to do away with the 17th Amendment and allow Senate to return to representing the state. The problem originally and why it eroded was it wasn't, basically the Constitution allowed states to decide how they would elect the Senate. And so what tended to happen was states tended just to hold votes and then just do it. So then the 17th Amendment just ratified that.
Right.
I think we need to put in the Constitution that the governor appoints with oversight by the state legislature, where they approve whatever he appoints.
Right.
And do that one term, 6 years for the Senate. So that's my thoughts on that one.
There you go. Any other thoughts you want to share with us today, Michael?
Oh,
Or Mike? Yeah,
Mike. Yeah, Mike's fine.
Yeah.
I got
In
Michael.
fact,
I got Michael when I was being fussed at by
Your
mom.
website is MikeBeatonBall.com.
MikeBeatonBall.com. Yeah, and my podcast is with Mike, Perspective with Mike Beatonball.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other big thing is just the corporatization of our society, to where we've given up our sovereignty and community's ability to have our own sense of control over our community and over our lives. Like, you're sitting here on this radio station. There's no radio station here in Saluda. I bet people growing up here used to have a radio station.
We
here.
did.
Well, what's happened is the difference in part of this, and listen, my first president I voted for was Reagan. But unfortunately, the theory of deregulation that happened in the media under Reagan's watch, and then the further deregulation that happened under Clinton, destroyed the ability of local radio stations to be
You're right.
competitive. And that's when all that went away, because it used to be set up to where you own a radio station in a market, you can't own other things. If you own a media company, you can't own other things. So what we have is huge corporations use media companies as income and entertainment outlets, which is why they've been so corrupted with giving out news. And instead of giving out news, they give out entertainment because it makes them money. Used to, you could not make money off your news program. So that has to be looked at again and help draw those lines, so we can help encourage individuals to go back and open up radio stations and media outlets and bring that power back to communities. The other thing is on the medical side, the collusion between insurance companies and corporate hospital owners is destroying rural medical care. It is destroying it. And one of my podcasts on Perspective, I'm interviewing Oscar Lovelace, which is my personal physician.
I like Dr. Lovelace. In fact, he came here and did several COVID clinics whenever COVID was going on at school.
Well, Oscar is one of the founding members of the Alliance Party, which I will be running under. And I did an amazing interview with Oscar. And if anybody's interested in fact, I got more views than anybody. Anybody interested in the situation of healthcare, go to Perspective with Mike. I'll link it in with your channel. So you can hear his discussion.
I just made a comment, and it has the perspectives on there.
Oh,
and I will edit it into the
Good, thank
subject
you,
line.
thank you. It is, it's really eye-opening how corrupted our medical system is done and why we don't have the health care we deserve. I am 100% against socializing medicine.
Yeah.
I am 100% for having a goal of where a young man or young woman wants to be a doctor, they go to school and they can go anywhere they want and open up a practice without having to sell their soul and their business to debt for med school and to a corporate insurance or a corporation tied in and making them employees of a huge corporation that runs a hospital. We have to break that back down again. So those are the corporate things.
Our uncle, my wife's, it's her dad's sister. Her husband is a doctor in St. George, and he refuses to go to with the hospitals. He refuses to sell out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, you have to have a
And you can
lot
tell
of
the
gumption.
difference.
Well, you can, and you
Yeah.
have to have financial ability to do that. You have to have resolve. You have to be willing to sacrifice. And I tell you, it's really hard. Only the far exceptional folks are able to do that.
Yes.
One of my phrases that I think is really important, when you hear people say "Make America Great Again," that could be interpreted to be any number of things.
Yeah.
When people
Yes.
said, I think people in rural South Carolina hear that and they think of their communities and how they're gutted of economic
Yes,
vitality.
correct.
So my whole thing is make our communities great again.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we make our communities great, what do we need to do to help turn the spigot around? Remember Ross Perot talking about the
Oh,
giant
yeah. I
sucking
remember
sound?
that, yeah.
Turn that spigot around so that capital is coming back into our
Mm-hmm.
communities, that empowers individuals to open up their own stores and not just be a franchise owner where corporate profits are going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because every one of these new places, here's MIGS, this is the perfect thing for
Oh, yeah.
a local place, relatively local, it has several outlets, but this is local commerce happening here.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do it though. And
It
so we
is.
need to make that easier for people. And the banking system needs to be set up to help reward those that's willing to take those risks. And banks able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the type of questions that I'm going to be asking. I don't have all the answers. I just know what questions I want to ask. I want to ask, how do we help the banks feel safe in investing in local communities? What do we do with that? How do we make that happen? That's the type of thing I'm going to push for. And nobody else is really doing that. And that's my goal.
Well, listen, I see people watching today, and we'll be watching later on. You want to invite them to your website and Facebook page, and we have these links up on the post today. If you'll just click it, we have Michael Beatonbow. You hit that post, it goes to his Facebook page, and then we have also MikeBeatonbow.com. It takes you to his personal page and where he's running for the 3rd Congressional District, and also the podcast Perspectives with Mike Beatonbow.
Yeah.
It takes you straight there.
Thank you. I also have now my personal page. I have a lot of my personal stuff and things on.
Yes.
I actually have a Facebook page that's tied more
Okay.
content for the run, and that is Perspective for let's see, Mike's Perspective for a Free Republic. I think it's its name. I'll send you that link. I just had that created so that it's interesting. People go to what they want to see, and
Here it is right here.
there it is, Mike's Perspective for a Free Republic.
Okay.
That's the Facebook page tied to my campaign.
It's got WhatsApp too, and you
Yep.
can follow him on this Facebook page as well. So we're going to put a link up to that as well on there, and he has 4 other links also. So we'll share all of them with the public, Mike.
But
like,
thank you so much.
yeah, and
for this
you'll be back
opportunity.
because you're not going nowhere. You're
I'm
going
not
to be
going anywhere, man.
you're going to be in for the full haul.
Yes, I am.
November, and we wish you good luck as you travel the state. In fact, I got some friends that live in Oconee County, a pastor friend of mine, and I'll tell you about him in a minute, and right there in Walhalla.
Oh, I know
Walhalla.
well. Yes. I know it
And
well.
you're going to be in a lot of parades, and
Oh, man.
and we got our festivals, and I just invited him to Crouch's thing, but we were glad that you stopped by today.
Well, I want to leave with one final thing.
Go ahead.
Because this is another element that I think people really need to think about.
Mhm.
There's a reason we have, there's a reason Jefferson said we have separation of church and state.
Right.
Even though Jefferson wasn't part of the Constitutional Convention.
Yes.
And there's a reason we have a secular government versus that. But the way the interpretation of the word the separation of church and state was never meant
Yeah.
to be separation of church and community.
Right. That's right.
That's what I'm going to be pushing back on.
Yeah.
And the best way for us not to have the federal intrusion into communities regarding spiritual belief is to quit taking money from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how that happens. So there's a little complicity in there that we have to really think about. Those are the things I'm going to really be focusing on. Because the loving intention of communities being able to have their spiritual beliefs unhindered, to be able to have a football game and have a prayer,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have 10 commandments, if the county wants 10 commandments as a source of laws on their courthouse square, it's
Right.
absurd. That Constitution was never meant to stop those sort of things.
Mhm.
Those are the type of discussions I'm going to have up there. Thanks for
That's
giving me a
great.
chance to talk about
Well,
it.
we're glad that you came back, and you was talking about George Washington.
Yes.
You know, the only two presidents to ever visit Saluda County were George's, George Washington and George Bush, and both of them won. Because both of them were not presidents when they came to Saluda, but wound up.
Well,
being
when
the
Washington came,
presidents.
it wasn't a Saluda, but
Yeah.
the dirt and land was here, and our ancestors
It
were
was
here.
here, and he stayed right
Well,
down the road here.
Oh yeah, there at where did he say, was it?
It was,
the house still here?
Yes, it is. It's Odom's.
Oh,
Odom's.
yes,
Odom's,
yes, Albert,
Yes,
okay.
yes, he stayed there.
Yeah, that was part of
Okay.
his grand tour after he got elected the
Yeah.
first time. He came down the East Coast
That's
and then
right.
went back up.
That's
Went
right.
back up this way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But we appreciate you stopping by, and we hope to have you back on the program again.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Listen, that's Mike Beatonbow, and you can go. We put all the pages up on the Facebook post today. You can go visit his site, and he will give, if you want to reach out to him for an interview,
Go for it.
message
I'll be
him on
available.
Facebook. He'll come and talk to you. I've got several friends in radio. You're talking about radio and TV also. And we'll be forwarding this too. I think they want to have you on the program.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you again, man, so much.
And we're glad that you're going to represent Saluda well in Washington too.
Absolutely.
You didn't skip over, fly over Saluda.
No, not at all.
Well, that's the wrap for today on Talking Tuesday. We appreciate you joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful week. Listen, we thank George and Gina for allowing us to come out every week right here at MIGS, and we're going to bring you more live coverage this week of the giveaways and the big celebration. Friday and Saturday will be with our live remote from Crouch Hardware and Farm Supply. We want you to be a part of that, and don't forget our giveaway. Guess the winning score. Win a $100 gift card courtesy of Crouch Hardware and Farm Supply. Folks, for all the Saluda